fuck? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WAT podcast. This is episode, I don't know, probably 26? It's been so long that I've lost track.
We took a hiatus.
Either way, we are back. We're not going anywhere. Yes, probably like a month hiatus that the two of us have not been on a call. Anyways, it feels good to be back.
Yeah.
And
Recording is a
I
struggle
think we're
because of the time difference.
yeah. I can't wait for you to get back to the UK so that everything is like normal-ish now.
You know what?
Either way.
I was thinking about that, and like 2 hours makes such a massive difference. Like the difference.
It does. It really does. Isn't it 3 hours right now?
No, like the time difference. No, it's
To the UK.
it's 2 hours.
Isn't it 3 hours?
Somewhere wrong.
Are you sure?
UK time.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
see. Yeah, it's 2:51. Yeah, and it's 4:51 here. So that's 2 hours.
Okay.
It makes an incredible difference. The 2 hours.
Mhm. Yep. You'd think that 2 hours is pretty minuscule, but not really. No. Either way. I think what we're gonna start off with is very recently I finished watching Mindhunter on Netflix, season 2 as well. And I just started watching like the series in general when I went for a holiday, but like I stopped in the middle because the first 2 episodes were kind of
Slow.
like they were slow. They were really slow, and then it caught on afterwards. But I guess you wanted to give your you wanted to talk about Mindhunter. So for those of you who are watching on the podcast, if you want to skip this, you can skip this to we'll put the timestamp. And yeah, this is also like our review to Mindhunter, which will also be uploaded separately, ripped off of the podcast. So yeah.
So, basically,
Mm-hmm.
it's about these two FBI agents who work in the behavioral science unit, and they interview criminals to create a profile like system. And
Right.
it's like, they're the first ones to do it. I think like serial killers specifically have a pattern of how they behave. So they try to figure it out, and that would help, speed up a lot of processes. It's set in, what is it set? It's set in the 80s or the 90s, somewhere there.
I think it's set in like the 70s, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, hold on. We can. Okay, yeah.
70s is like late 70s to early 80s.
Yeah, it's season 1 is set from 1977 to 1980, and then season 2 is set through 1980.
83 and 84.
Yeah, 1982, yeah, 1981. That's when the Atlanta murders.
Okay. Yeah. So it's set, and it's, I think it like takes inspiration from like real life events. Not fully, not like a full recreation of how stuff happened, but a very faithful adaptation, I guess. At least in the interviews part. The other stuff was obviously fictionalized, but I think most of the interviews that were, or at least I think all of the interviews that were shown in the show are accurate representations of the interviews that were taken in real life.
Yeah,
and so yeah, basically the show, I guess the show tells us about how the term serial killer was popularized the right word? I think popularized is the right word.
mm-hmm.
And the science, I guess the science behind it, how these two people working for the FBI came about like coining the most, popular phrase when it comes to like murders, I guess.
Yeah. So, season one was really good. I really enjoyed it. I
Mm-hmm.
thought season two
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as good, but it was still good because
Right.
they, I guess they had two narratives, right? Like they had two subplots. One was the Atlanta murders that the two main characters were, working on.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
season
season
two.
two.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other storyline was they have a whole team, including a psychiatrist. If I'm not wrong.
I think she's a professor of psychology, right?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Well, she was a professor at
Yeah,
Boston
she's a psychology
University,
professor.
or like, yeah.
So she basically then takes over the interviews, and I was really
Right.
upset that at the point they were trying to balance both of them. They're like, oh, the interviews are
Yeah.
happening, they're working on this, and some part of me thought they would merge the two. So they go to the interviews, they find out something, they convey that information, and then they work on the case based off information. I thought that's what was going to happen,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tried to like balance it where they were going for interviews, but eventually they just abandoned that whole second plot for the first story. And every time it would just go back to the professor. It was about her love life, and her having this relationship because she is okay. Hold on.
She's lesbian.
Yeah, I was trying to think if that's like the correct word. Yeah, she's lesbian.
There's no other way to say it, man.
I don't know. I have to be careful. Yeah, she's lesbian, and they completely explore that aspect, which I thought was alright, but I still feel really bad that they completely abandoned, because I wanted to see how her as a psychology professor approaches, the interviews. And they did one really good interview where she was interviewing a gay serial killer, and she used her experience of being a lesbian and tried to open up to him, try to get him to talk to her. I thought that was really smart, and I thought I would do more of that, but then they just gave up on it, and they focused all their efforts on the Atlanta murders. And that was.
I thought the Atlanta murder storyline was kind of solid.
Yeah.
Though. Like it was a good. But I do wish, they did more. I wish instead of like Wendy doing the interviews, the woman doing the interviews, I wish was kind of like the guys doing because the guys doing the interviews was like that shit was in like it was very intense.
Yeah.
The when they were both doing the interviews, like that was in season one. I think those are like the best parts of the season when they were doing the interviews because of like of what was being said. It was kind of shocking because you don't expect stuff like that to come out of like an FBI agent's mouth, and but then at the same time seeing how like a criminal reacts to it and gives their approval and then opens up to something that they can like relate with, I guess. I think that's what made season one interesting. I think season two was also I think it was also a build up to what is going to be season three with I think the main killer who is being I think who is going to who is the main showrunner of the entire thing. Like you can
BTK.
The build up is happening. Yeah, BTK.
I actually love the small like bits they show of him, like for throughout the 2 seasons they've been like littering little scenes where he's doing stuff and his progression.
Yeah, and you don't really know what exactly he's doing, but like you can tell that he's slowly like he in season one you don't really know who he is because they don't give an idea of like what he does and all that stuff. They just give you a few shots of him getting into his van and walking around or getting into his what's it called, like house or someone else's house, but in season 2 we see the more the actual like deranged side of
The
him,
more psychological
where
side,
like
like
yeah, where he's actually like, playing with his I guess you can call it a fetish. I
playing
don't
with the
know.
trinkets,
I
like
don't
he's
fucking know.
turned on. He's like getting sexual
Yeah,
pleasure from the
yeah,
trinkets that he gets from his murder victims.
exactly. So you see that part, and you see that he is a BTK killer because there's a scene where like the he's trying to photocopy something, and the copier gets stuck and all that stuff, and then he pulls out the paper and it's his logo, his famous logo, and you're like, oh, this is the BTK killer. So I liked the season 1 where there was a bit of mystery to it, and then season 2 there was enough of a payout to keep you like interested in season 3, because now you know that, okay, it's like there's this build up, and now season 3 will be the payoff, I
But
guess.
still, there were
Or
a lot of
maybe not.
weak points in season 2, especially like the whole
There were a lot of
panic attack. You know how like he had a panic attack, and then
oh yeah, they kind of like
abandoned. Like that's what I mean. They started things and then they
yeah,
just kept letting it go. Like they started like so basically
yeah,
at the end of season 1, Agent Holt is interviewing.
Holden,
Yeah, Holden.
Phil.
Yeah, he's interviewing like a serial killer called
Ed Kemper.
Yeah, and eventually Ed Kemper is in the hospital, and Holden goes to like visit him. And when he goes to visit,
After like he has emotionally I wouldn't say disturbing, but like events that you make you emotionally vulnerable.
yeah. And so he goes to visit him, and Ed
Yeah.
Kemper like terrifies him in a way, so he has a panic attack. And
I think the whole point of that was like Ed Kemper kind of relates with him, and he's like, oh shit, I'm kind of like, falling into his traps, and that's when he like, he feels,
which is also a really
completely
smart part of the
vulnerable.
interviews is the proudness of like all the serial killers, all like the different
Yeah.
mentalities that you see. For example, the Charles Manson, the two different perspectives. I love that Charles Manson interview where he's like, I didn't tell anyone
Oh
to do
yeah.
anything. I just, and then you hear a completely different side where Charles Manson was manipulating every single person to do what they wanted to do, and how they brought in this like
Yeah.
control aspect where Charles Manson didn't want to do the murders, but he did it because he had a group of people, and they didn't see him as a leader. For the things he was incentivizing them to do, they didn't see him as someone
Right.
who would be capable of doing it himself. So eventually he took action, and he
They did it for him.
and not even that they did it for him. That he remembered there's a scene where they talk about how he went and he tied up the victims and everything because he didn't want to lose that leadership role that he had. And as a person who studies like psychology, and you have like that, criminal psychology that you learn, it's very interesting to see that applied, and the mentality that, or the unique perspectives that they approach the serial killers at that time, which is now common knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that panic attack thing, where he's having panic attacks, and they make it as like this really significant thing that's going to constantly affect him with the interviews and everything. But after the first two episodes, it never comes up again until like the second last episode, where it's briefly referenced. Doesn't even have a panic attack; it's just briefly referenced.
Yeah, I think that would have made it a lot more interesting, to be honest. The whole panic attack part of it, because like it shows weakness, but then I don't know, they just threw that plot away.
Yeah. There was some really weak writing at certain points, like for example, I didn't greatly appreciate like there's a whole bit where the detective follows the dad of William Haynes, when William Haynes is discovered to be the person behind some of the Atlanta murders, right?
Yeah,
they're like tracking him, and they're like surveilling him, and then at a point he causes a distraction, and his dad goes to like, find a chartered plane, to escape. And I thought all of that was like pretty insignificant, but again, it might actually have happened. So
What do you mean
I
insignificant?
mean, like, there was no bearing on anything. Like, that tiny detail of him trying to escape didn't really have a bearing on anything.
But like, I guess that's like that's the proof that they've done. If
I still don't.
I mean, why would you escape if you haven't done anything wrong?
But you're escaping because you're constantly like hounded and surrounded by people. And to be fair,
But like, if you haven't done anything wrong,
but
you
it's
take
still
it up by
pretty
your chin. You'd
significant.
be like, I haven't done
Okay.
anything.
So I get that, and my argument would be like, it's pretty significant to have the still, like, you being accused of being a serial murderer, a serial killer is still significant.
Right.
You
Right.
still want to escape that because
Right.
regardless, like, tomorrow you're proven innocent. People still have that at the back of the mind
Yeah.
that at a point you were a serial killer. So I could see that, like, yeah, but like,
But you could have you could have left after conviction, like after your trial, I guess.
yeah, but I just thought there were certain bits of it that were just so weak, like, and unexplored. And like, I thought they would explore him, trying to materialize his publicity into something, like, seeing what he does with it.
Right.
But none of that happened. Like, it was just, they showed it and then they move on to the next piece of evidence. There wasn't exploration
Yeah.
of this thing.
Yeah.
And,
I
and
guess so.
I think,
You're right.
like, them exploring William Haynes capitalizing on the publicity he's gotten to accomplish his goal, which was, to have all these people, like, actually paying attention to him. Like, that would be the perfect thing for
Yeah, because he was a struggling artist.
that would be the perfect thing for a show that highlights how intelligent these people are, how they
Right.
use the best of their situation and all of that. But it was none of that. There was none of that. And
Mm-hmm.
they also had a point, like, okay, to be fair, I will give, like, I did have a problem with this at the start, where they found the person, and it felt like the process of him also realizing that he is actually the person that they're looking for was super sped up. Like, it took 8 episodes to find him, and then in like an episode and a half, they're just constantly throwing these evidences towards you, and I had a problem with it initially, but I feel like it works because you spend so long
This is the Atlanta
Yeah.
murder, right?
you spend and you
Okay.
spend so long finding them, like, finding this person,
Yeah.
and then when it all
Right.
starts fitting together, I appreciate that, where nothing is making sense, and then you find this guy and everything just starts clicking into place. But
Right.
again,
You feel like that was done too
yeah,
quick.
that was also
in
done too
terms
quick,
of, like,
and
comparing it to like how long it actually took to find
Yeah.
him.
also
So like the pacing was off.
the pacing was off. Also, he wasn't really the smartest person that they made him out to be. For some,
No, he really
for
wasn't.
someone who, for like 2 years, was completely uncatchable. They had no way of getting to him. He was pretty dumb.
Right.
Like, when they eventually like got to him, and
When they eventually caught him.
he was pretty dumb. He did like the randomest thing. Like, he had evidence in his thing, and then he just tossed away the evidence. Like, what's more incriminating than that? I'm like, this guy really isn't the smartest person. Like, he isn't.
Right.
But again, I appreciate it that they didn't convict him for all the murders, so I can see, like, if he did like all the 30 murders, then I expected someone incredibly
Yeah.
intelligent who knows exactly what he's doing, who's planned this. But considering he was
Yeah.
just convicted for a few of them, and they
But then again, that's also like a real life thing, because
Yeah.
like at the end of season 2, they say that the one who did like all those child murders still hasn't
Yeah.
been found. Like, no conviction
So-
had been
yeah,
made
so
yet.
the William Haynes that they catch, like, who they catch William Haynes, he was only convicted for 2 of like the 29 murders. So
Right.
there's still, like, 27 left. So I can appreciate the fact that there might be a bigger fish who is much better at this, who has gotten away
Yeah.
with all these. Speaking of, in case you didn't know, in 2019 March, they actually reopened the cases.
Are you real?
Yeah.
Like, for
Yeah,
real?
they reopened the cases
Why?
because they hoped that newer technology would lead to, like, it would lead to a conviction, or they would find the murderer. I also feel like the guy would be dead,
Huh.
or like pretty old. Would be like 60, 65.
Probably.
But I mean, it's never too late for justice. So I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, all those things
And like some of the kids weren't even like found yet.
Mhm. There were a lot of missing.
Like some of them were still missing.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot of them, but like maybe 3 or 4 of them were still missing at the end of the day.
Yeah. I really thought there was a lot of pacing issues with the second season. Like, at sometimes it was super slow, and then they sped things up, and then they slowed it back down, and they kept speding. Like, there was just no consistency.
It was not consistent. Yeah.
That really agitated me.
Yep,
But I also, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, the thing is, I feel like, usually for a movie, I can understand when you're doing something this big, but for a show, I feel like you can have that consistent, pacing. Like, you don't have to squeeze everything in, you can still, like, send it. But again, who knows what the third season holds. So again, I can't say, like, oh, they should have stretched it out, because I have no idea what they planned for the third season. And maybe the third season is so intensive on the BTK killer that they don't have time for this. And obviously, because it's based off true events, there's a progression of how it happens, There's a linearity with each event, so you can't just squeeze in the Atlanta murders when they're trying to find the BTK killer.
Yep.
So I also understand the limitations that come with sometimes show making.
Yeah, I think more the pacing issues come with the fact that this was based off of based off of true events.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how it happened in real life, like you're just stuck in a rut for a while, and then after everything, like after you get one major piece of evidence, like everything just clicks into place one by one by one by one by one, and like everything just rushes along.
But again, a lot of things started to click into place because William Haynes was a goddamn idiot. He just kept throwing evidence at me. He got caught, and he's like, I'll just give you all the evidence you need, don't worry. I'll start doing the most suspicious things that anyone has ever done.
Yeah, I'll keep the dog in my house. I won't clean the carpets. Like, none of that shit.
He's like, and the worst thing is, like, he carpeted the whole house, but he left enough that would still incriminate him. Like, if you're going to do the whole carpet, why would you leave any traces? Just cover it all. It was the most convenient things. Like,
right.
That really bothered me.
Maybe just slipped up. Who knows?
I guess, yeah. Like, when you get caught, there's a lot of pressure, and considering he was constantly surveillanced. But again, you see, all those things when you're constantly surveillanced, like the whole recarpeting. Like, how did that slip through the cracks? Because they were always watching him. And for his dad to just leave and go, and go ask for a chartered plane, he had to cause this incredible distraction. But to carpet his entire house, which I'm assuming he has to bring in carpet and all that thing, all that stuff. Like, he just doesn't have extra.
He just had them in his in the back.
He just had extra carpet.
The outhouse.
Yeah.
He just had the extra carpet to carpet the entire house.
Yeah, and had the tools and everything. He didn't need, carpet. Like, people to actually come and do the job, and all that slipped through the cracks. Yeah, it was so convenient. Even the incompetence that led to him, like, getting away, getting rid of the car. But again, to be fair, there's a lot of things I don't know about what is really real. Like, when they actually caught him, was there actually an FBI agent that let him go without taking evidence from the car? So who knows? One interesting plotline that I really appreciate, that I thought I've not really seen very often, I thought it was wonderfully handled, was the fact that Bill Tenches, who is Holden's partner, his kid is part of a murder. Like, they murdered a little kid, and I thought that was brilliant. Like, I thought none of that was done better.
That side plot was like really, really interesting.
It was absolutely amazing. The fact, like, where he goes.
It was really interesting.
Like, the kid sets him up as Jesus, hoping to bring him back to life. I thought all of that, the writing, the rifts it caused, the difficulty that he has to do.
And it's like you can see the ripple effect of like what caused, like the butterfly effect of what actually caused the thing in the first place. Like, they hinted a bit in, was it season 1 where he caught the files, where he saw the files and stuff, when the babysitter was like, oh shit, I found something, and so in season 1 he saw like a disturbing picture, and I guess that's like then the butterfly effect just kept going and going and going, and then this was like the payoff, and you're like, holy fuck, that's that's like actually insane.
It was brilliant, and I remember there was one scene that I loved is when Bill Hinch is like taking his kid to like eat ice cream, and like that's such a
Yeah,
I thought that was like brilliantly shot because you're in a place that is filled with innocence. Like you're going to eat ice cream with your kid, and then Bill just loses it. He's like, everything scares me about this. You gotta tell me what's going on. And I thought I love that scene.
yeah.
I love
It's just like the contrast between the
Yeah.
two events happening. Yeah.
yeah, that's all I have to say on Mindhunter.
All right. All right. So, uh, as this is a review as well, um, I guess we're gonna have to give it a rating. So, would you want to rate season 1 and 2 separately, or just
Yeah.
both of them as an average?
Okay, no, I'll give season one. Like I'll give it out of the 10. I think I would give like season 1 and 8, but I'd give season 2 a 7. On a good day, it's 7.
Okay.
But yeah, 7 is I think more closely with that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the same for me. Season 1 was an 8, and then season 2 was a 7, 7.5. I think there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened in season 2, but um, I guess season 2 was like the filler season for just the BTK stuff, and then season 3 is just gonna go like all out insane mode.
Actually, I would give it 7.5 because I still think like the Bill Tench subplot was unique, well written. It was
Yeah,
awesome. So I'd
sure.
give it 7.5.
Sure. So yeah, pretty good show. If you're into like, I wouldn't call this like a thriller or anything. It's like, I wouldn't even call it a slow burner. But if you're into like, I guess psychology, and
Criminal psychology. It is
yeah,
considered
criminal
a
psychology.
psychological thriller. Murder mysteries are usually called like
Okay,
psychological thrillers.
sure. So if you're into like slow, kind of slow psychological thrillers where, um, there is quite a bit of talking in between investigating and all that, but like interesting talking regardless, then this is a show that you should watch.
I feel like the best way
Um,
to say it is if you're into David Fincher movies, watch this. You'll enjoy it.
oh yeah,
By the way, if you don't know what David Fincher has done, he's done Fight Club, Seven, Gone Girl, Zodiac, a lot of like murder mysteries. That's his niche.
murder mysteries. Yep.
So yeah.
All right. Now I wanted to talk about something else. But yeah, before that, yeah, I wanted to talk about something else that kind of like made me question a lot of things, and that was I think it was yesterday or a few days back or 2 days back. Um, what's his name? Pierce Brosnan,
Mm.
the guy who played James Bond. I think he's one of the more popular, most popular James Bond
Yeah.
um, actors out there. In the fact that like my parents love him the most out of all of the guys who played it. He came out and said that it is time for a female to play the 007 agent, and create a whole new storyline for that. And the funny part is, the people who were for this, um, I wouldn't call it a movement, but um, the people who were for this change were mostly men,
Mhm.
and the people who were against this are mostly women.
Okay, I have
Um,
for the sake of our audiences, I would like to ask you how
Right.
you came to that conclusion.
What?
Like, how did you realize that it was mostly men being for it?
Oh, so someone made I don't know who it was, but it was one of these media outlets. They made they put a list of like people who, I guess, okay, it wasn't a comprehensive list. It was 4 people, for and against each. So on the four side. There were four men: Pierce Brosnan, Idris Elba, and two other guys. I don't remember them. Um, and who were against it was, I think it was Eva Green. Uh, I think three Bond girls, if I'm not wrong. Three Bond girls. Maybe, but like, three of them are women and one of them was a guy, and they were like, so based off of those 8 people, four of them who were four, and they were all men, and 3 out of the 4 that were against were women. I know it's not a large sample size, but I would say I think that would be like it. I don't understand. I don't agree with the fact that, like, the James Bond or like the 007 character has to be a female. I don't agree with that at all. And it's not about discriminating or anything, but I genuinely think that this is one of those characters that if you change something as big as a gender about this character, nothing makes sense.
Why?
Because you have this one character who's been stable for 25 years, I guess. I don't know how long, probably more than that. And then all of a sudden you just change the gender. And I don't know. And the reasoning why, like, the women were against it was like, because it was like, they said that we want they want to be in their own individual stuff. So like maybe like a 006 or 008 or whatever, but like a completely different agent who hasn't had like a whole 25 movie franchise behind them. They want to make something of their own, which I 100% agree with. Like, if you want someone to really do well, I think if you want some kind of major change for a franchise or something like that, then make it completely separate, like what they did with Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to make a Fast and the Furious movie spin-off, but they didn't just call it Fast 9 and have just both of them in. They made a completely separate movie from the franchise, with a completely separate storyline and everything. And I think that's what made it work, because it was not connected, and so you could separate the two. I don't know, it's just I don't like it when there's is this pandering the right word?
I have no idea. Okay, say what you want to say.
I guess.
Like
when people just say this stuff just for the sake of it, like they want to show that they're PC, I guess, so they just say it so that they don't get shit on or something like that.
Okay, then. Yeah, no.
Isn't it
like that? That isn't pandering. Is more like just I don't know, but I guess you could say, like, 'cause the way I see pandering is like it's giving in, So like if you give in to
right,
like people expecting you to be like, oh, we need a female Bond because of the nature of the climate that exists right now.
Yeah.
Then I guess. By the way, me saying climate, I'm not saying it's a negative climate. Like, I'm not saying it's bad, we have too many people, like,
right.
I'm not saying that.
Because of, like, because of the change that's going on and everything. Like, people want more female heroes in like, powerful roles, such as, like, spies and whatnot.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe it's pandering, maybe it's not, but I seriously don't think that there should be female adaptations of every whatever movie. Like, if it fits, it fits. Fair enough. Like the Ghostbusters movie, sure, it fits. Although it wasn't that good, but like, it fits,
okay,
right?
No, but like, doesn't this fit as well? Like, this fits as well. Like, for example, like the Doctor Who.
Yeah,
right?
but you see, the thing is, like
Doctor Who did that.
Right, but okay, so Doctor Who did that, Doctor Who hasn't been doing well since the introduction of the female Doctor. Um, but I don't think that's besides the point. That that I don't think that that's the sole reason. Um, but the thing is, okay, this is what I read somewhere, right? That Doctor Who has always done stuff that hasn't fit in with like the ordinary, right? So if you cast a female Doctor Who, that doesn't fit in with the ordinary. So it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense when you like read between the lines. It kind of makes sense, sure. Um, but like I there the James Bond one specifically doesn't make sense because you have it's just been James Bond the entire time, right? Like this isn't like any handing over the mantle to someone else. It's just
But no, that's how it is. Like the actor, like Doctor Who is still the same. Like it's still like the new Doctor Who, and that's what happens with James Bond as well. Like they're handing over. Like that's literally how they phrase it. Is like, the mantle has been handed over to Craig. What's
Daniel Craig.
Daniel
Right.
Craig, and then and that's how they phrase it. Is like they're handing over the mantle.
Right. But it's still I don't know how Doctor Who works. Is it like the Doctor has the same name throughout every single iteration?
No, but like it's just like they're called Doctor Who, like it's just I'm not really sure.
Exactly. Like
From what I know, it's still like Doctor Who.
are they just called Doctor
And
Who?
like it's just the new Doctor.
Oh.
And the mantle has passed over, and a new Doctor comes in, and I don't see why that can happen with the James. I do agree with you that like not everything
Should be like that.
had a male. No, like not everything that had a male cast needs a female viewer. Like there are so many creative ideas that require, that a strong female lead that would be incredible to watch.
Yeah.
And we're going to get so much shit for saying that.
No, I don't think so.
Because okay, but yeah, no, I agree with that. Like why, like for example the Ocean's movies, right? The Ocean's movies weren't good after like Ocean's 12. Ocean's 13 was like
Right.
garbage. I didn't like it. Ocean's 12 was mediocre, and Ocean's 11 was the really
good one, right?
film. Yeah, and like they don't have to. But again, if you think about it, how else could they have done an Ocean's movie that is unique? Like, what unique aspect would they have given it?
Sure, put all female cast in it, but it worked. It worked because it kind of fit into the canon of the whole thing, right? This woman is like the sister or whatever of the previous guy.
Yeah, so I don't see why that.
Because it doesn't
James
work
Bond
within the James Bond quote unquote universe, because it's been
Why not?
007 James Bond for for 25 movies, dude. It's I think it's probably the longest running franchise in cinema history.
Yeah.
You can't just up and change that. I don't think you can. You can make a spin-off series with a female agent who is part of the MI6 or whatever he is. That's yeah. And that could work. But I don't think
I don't agree with that.
I don't think 007 James Bond specifically is made for a female, because the entire idea of James Bond as a male character is a charming dude who gets all the women that he wants in every single movie, and I don't think that works with this might be
I disagree
this
with that.
this
I
might
think
come to
it's-
bite me in the ass, but I don't think it works.
Yeah.
The other way around.
I think it could absolutely work, and I think it's fine. Like I don't think they have to create a new spin for certain series. I understand, like it could be much better to have a spin-off, creative side or whatever, but for James Bond, where characters are constantly changing, the 007 mantle is continuously.
But it's just one James, where Doctor Who can be. Doctor Who is pretty unisex name. Okay, well, there's not much in the name either, but still, like you can change it to
But
Jamie Bond. I don't know. Um,
I was literally gonna say Jamie, but listen, Jamie is also a male name.
right.
So, you know, James could be a dad. Absolutely. No, we're not constricted by male and female names anymore. James Bond could absolutely also be a woman. Like, we could have a James Bond who's a woman who's named James Bond.
No, wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit, man. Ask yourself, would it actually fit? It just wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
If you, okay, I need to ask. Okay, I've seen a few opinions of like people who watch James Bond movies and they're like it just doesn't fit with the whole character. If you have uh, a female playing as James Bond who has to fit in with with most of the characteristics of the protagonist of a James Bond movie, it just doesn't fit because James Bond has certain male characteristics. That's
But no one is saying that the female Bond also has to be straight. Like she could be getting all the women she wants
it
as
doesn't.
well.
Oh, sure, maybe it can be a lesbian female Bond, but still, that just I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. It just.
You know what we really need? Can I tell you something that we
What?
really need to do? Is we really need to bring like a female perspective. We need to hire hire
Sure.
free internship, by the way. It's free. We're not gonna pay you because
All right.
free internship. But yeah, you come in
Next
and you add.
next episode of the WAT podcast, we'll be discussing this again, but this time we'll have a female guest with us. If you are interested, if you're interested, let me know. We'll have you on the show. Have a little debate,
Yeah.
get a little
Yeah.
perspective. Also, you have to be like a fan of the James Bond movies, at least watched more
Like,
than
you should have
one,
all watched.
more than one or two movies, so that you know the proper character of James Bond. Sure.
And then you can properly tell us, if this is a good
Right.
decision.
I'll also ask my
the
mom
mediator.
because she loves James Bond. She's also a female, so it would be good to know her perspective.
Good clarification. Good clarification.
So yeah, I'll
But yeah,
next week. Next episode, we will continue this debate with a fresh perspective.
debate, yeah. And you know what? In between those, I'm going to refresh myself on
Right.
James Bond.
We
movies
go and
to
watch
understand.
the James Bond movies as well to understand what kind of a
Yeah.
character he is. And so the next week
Yeah, no,
or
like
next episode,
I feel like I've watched all of them.
right?
Because I remember, GoldenEye came out and there was a game and everyone loved
But
it.
like, there's been
So I
more
watched that.
before that. Like there are black and white James Bonds as well.
Okay, yeah, but let's. Screw
Okay,
those.
so
Let's
you
screw
want to watch
those,
the color
of a
all the
different
color ones,
Yeah, we can even go with all the Daniel Craig.
bro?
ones
Daniel
because-
Craig is
I
the
guess,
worst James Bond out there.
Yeah, but if you think about it, he is a person passing on the
Right.
mantle, right?
You have
So
to compare it
It's
to him.
it's his characteristics that we have to see
Sure.
can transition into a female James
Sure.
Bond. We're not gonna take Pierce Brosnan's characteristics and be like, it doesn't work there because look at what Pierce Brosnan did. Look at how will she be able
Right.
to do it. So I feel like we have to go with Daniel Craig and see
You
if there's
would-
that smooth transition. So we watch all the Daniel Craig movies, and we see.
So there's been
And then
3?
we bring in four. Skyfall, Casino Royale.
That's
I don't know.
and there's
Let me.
and the new one that's
Craig.
coming out next year.
Yeah, but that's fine. Okay. Skyfall, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, and Spectre.
Spectrum
four.
is coming out next year.
No Time to Die is coming.
Oh,
out
okay,
next
so
year.
4.
Spectre already came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 Daniel Craig.
Which
Fucking hell.
and it's going to be painful because apart from Casino Royale and Skyfall, which are considered
They're all bad.
are
They're
amazing.
all bad. Dude, they're all bad.
Nah, Casino Royale and Skyfall are brilliant. I think.
They're all bad. I have you seen the older ones? Like the Pierce Brosnan ones
Yeah.
and the ones before that as well.
Yeah, that's fair, but like still, like eventually you're gonna run out of
It
ideas.
doesn't
I still
matter,
think,
man.
like,
It doesn't matter. The
Okay,
whole point
okay,
of
listen,
James Bond is like
let's
he's a
just
fucking badass, and this Daniel Craig guy is a goddamn pussy. That's what I'm saying.
okay, that's fine. But we watch these, we
Right.
come back with a female perspective, and then we can have a good, healthy
Right.
debate. See if it
Right.
works. See if the transition from Daniel Craig to a female James
Can
Bond
work.
is good.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Which are Idris Elba. He's been completely thrown out of the conversation.
Right, because this motherfucker supports the argument that females should be James Bond as well. It's not our fault, it's his fault.
I'm happy with anything. I'm not. I'm not dipping my foot in that hellhole. Bro, okay.
Alright.
Yeah. But okay, I will continue.
Yes. With that out of the way.
First episode where there's a cliffhanger.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
First episode with a cliffhanger. Yes, thank you for listening to this episode 26 of the WAT podcast. We'll see you next time. Same time, same place. Goodbye.
Goodbye.